how are you doing today, Ted?
Well, it's a beautiful day in late March, and how could you not be in a good mood today?
Man, it is a very beautiful day, and I saw next week it's going to be like kind of cold.
At South Dakota, you know, we have a variety of weather.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get used to it, and man, I had a good day or a good morning, except something happened. I'm like, oh, I'm just a little stressed, but oh well.
Well, tomorrow's a brand new day. Think of it that way.
It is.
Yes.
And then lately, I won't go into my situation because I'm a boring guy. But there's this problem that's been going on, and a big problem, and I'm always worried about it. Like the next day, and then I have some advice saying, hey, you know, try not to worry too much the next day. Think about just like now. Just
yeah.
If not, it's going to affect me. So I'm trying to balance it out. So
well, good luck to you, whatever it is.
No, it should be cool. But so, Ted, actually, you are. I say this too, but you are one of the top people have been asking for, and I was so hesitant because I was like, "There's no way he'll talk to me." But then I think Becky got me in contact with you, and then you agreed. I know we had to schedule something, but I was not cool.
Oh, I'm honored you'd be interested.
No, yeah. Were you at the Vermillion Rotary Club?
Yes.
Okay, so that.
I spoke to you briefly afterward. You and your wife was there.
Yeah, because you did like a little bit of Spanish. I was like, oh, snap.
Un poquito español.
Yeah.
Sí.
Yeah, man, that Rotary presentation, I was so scared.
Well, you covered the bases. I wasn't aware of your program. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm not aware of a lot of things that's happened in the 21st century. But anyway, here we are.
Yeah. No, it's been fantastic. I've enjoyed it. I love talking to people, and which is funny because I'm not like what's it called? I'm more introvert. I think that's what they say. I like staying in my house, but if there's new people, what I like, Ted, is I like learning about people, learning new stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just everyone's so fascinating. You could learn. I think this is what my father-in-law told me. He told me this in the summer. He says every day you can learn something new.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you don't change your mind about something almost every day based on new information, you're not paying much attention.
Oh,
you have to be flexible to learn and grow every day.
I agree on that. Which I feel like on my side, it's a pro and it's a con because I'm very open-minded, but as in like I don't have a stance on something, which I think it's bad. I should just have a stance. But I get like you know, for example, I won't go too much into it. It's all right, but like in politics, you know, I hear this side and then I hear this side and I'm like, okay, that's why they're saying, oh, okay, that's why they're saying this and that. Even though I think I need to have like a stance on something, but I am more open-minded. I'm like, okay, I think that's what makes sense. That's why when I talk to people, like, you know, we had the elections last year. I was talking to both people on both sides. And for me, it was fascinating. I'm like, oh, so that's why they're voting this way. Oh, that's what they think about this situation. Even though there's some stuff I don't agree, I'm like, okay, now I understand. Which, you know, give or take.
Controversial issues, there's usually some merit on both sides. And some people can't see any merit on the other side. But in my case, I think I go out of my way to understand people that don't agree with me. And that's helpful. Usually I go in blind with my guests because I like finding new things out. And, but you're one of the, I think one of the most famous people I've talked to. Well, fame is a pretty small thing then, if that's the case.
But what did you used to do in your career? Well,
I've done a lot of different things and attributable, I suppose, to having a liberal arts education. And, excuse me, I majored in history and political science. I had 2 majors in college and a Bachelor of Arts degree. And I credit that with my ability to go from one economic sector, at least, to another with relative success. And you learn to think and you learn to make judgments based on the merits of things. And the more information you have, the better judgments you're going to make. And I think you get that in liberal arts.
Okay. Did you always wanted to do that since you were a kid?
Well, I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was a kid, I remember the first thing I wanted to do was I was like 5 years old. I thought I wanted to be a Royal Canadian Mounted Policeman, but I'd have to live in Canada then, and it's cold there. So that didn't last too long. And anyway, I've always been interested in some form of public service and public involvement, because I believe that's my responsibility, along with everybody else, to contribute some way into the discourse of the community.
Yeah, lately. So I don't want to go back into it because I always talk about it. Since I'm not from around here. I've only been here, I'm gonna say almost 5 years. Me and my wife and my kid.
Right.
And we thought we were just gonna be here for a year and then head back to Texas. Yeah. And then apparently it's great, and we've had a lot of friends. And I think this is what's different. It's a small town. I'm from a city, but there's this like a community aspect, which is great. Especially like one thing, for example, the problem I've been dealing with. I had so many people just willing to help, and I'm like, but why? And I even asked that, and they're like, well, we're just here to help. I'm like, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just not used to it. Where I'm from, you don't see like family helps, but I never see like a community. But
I think that's pretty common in small towns, wherever it is. Vermillion's only 10,000 people, counting the students. And there's a small town climate and culture here that where people feel an obligation to others in their community. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold, and so I have to clear my throat. But I think that's pretty common, whether it's a small town in Texas or any place else. People have a sense of responsibility to each other.
Are you from around here?
I'm originally from Nebraska.
Oh, how did you get from Nebraska to here?
I came up Highway 77. No, it was we came here for 1 year too. In 1967, and it was one of these things that happens in life where there was a contact from a professor of mine from the University of Nebraska, where I went to school, who knew Dr. William Farber here at USD, and USD was looking for somebody to take a federal grant, which USD had received, and turn it into a operating program of public administration, essentially, for state and local government. And my professor at Nebraska suggested that they might talk to me. I worked for a company called Northern Natural Gas in Nebraska at that time. And so I was contacted from USD about it, and very candidly, I knew there was a University of South Dakota because they had played football in Lincoln in 1962, and I was at the game. And so I knew there was a university in South Dakota, but I had no idea where it was. So I asked the person that contacted me, he said, where is Vermillion? They said, well, it's just in the southeast corner of South Dakota, and within visual range of Nebraska. So I thought, well, that's not too bad. So I got my map out, looked at it, and said, well, I could drive from Lincoln to Vermillion and back in one day, and it's not a huge thing. So I thought, well, I'll go up there and see what it looks like, which I did. And my final interview of the day was with the president of the university at that time. And he offered me the job, and I accepted it, right, subject to my wife's concurrence. And she's from a small town in Nebraska, too, called Hebron. And some people would pronounce it Hebron, depending on where you're from. But anyway, she asked me what Vermillion was like, and I said, well, it's kind of like Hebron with a college. It's a small town, and anyway, God bless her. She agreed to come up here with me, and we had two small children and the third one on the way. And so as foolish young people do, we moved to Vermillion, and this was a year-to-year arrangement with a federal grant. It was an annual grant, no assurance that we would have any renewal. So as foolish young people do, we bought a house, of course. And anyway, we've lived here 3 different times over the past 50 years. And we lived in Sioux Falls for 20 years and Pierre for 4 years, and 3 different times in the Vermillion, and different responsibilities here. And we're fully retired here now.
Wow. Do you like it?
I do. It's depending on your age and what your expectations are of your community. If you're young and you like the excitement of a city with lots of different entertainment options and all the energy that goes into a big city, when you're young, that's pretty common. But by the time you get to be 40-ish, all that big city stuff becomes a kind of a burden. And I'll be 85 this year, and I don't have much expectations about nightlife. To me, nightlife is anything that happens after 6 p.m. And so, anyway, if it's calm and quiet and secure, why we have a very nice home here and enjoy living here.
Wow, so that's cool. I thought you were in your 60s.
Well, thank you. I'm much older than that. I was born in 1940, after the fall of France. So I didn't have any responsibility for the Nazis overrunning France. I just wanted to point that out.
If you are enjoying this and want to be a guest or sponsor, email me at vermillionunplugged@gmail.com. The one thing, it's a joke that even though we say it's a joke, I feel like it's not. And I don't know if it's like a northern versus southern thing, or maybe it's the climate. Me and my wife are, for some reason, like the people here in the Midwest, like honestly, y'all guys look way younger than what we think. And one thing, I don't know, I have an uncle that lives in Sioux Falls, and then I have like my family, same thing in Texas or in Mexico. But my uncle, he's 70, but he does not look 70. And he made the joke. He said, it's probably the cold air.
Well, that may have something to do with it. Yes.
Yeah. And then I guess everyone out there is like usually in the sun. So I'm like,
I think that's probably makes some contribution to that.
Yeah. So that's why, like, funny thing here, I don't take offense to it. So I'm 29, and I have people here, they think I'm in my mid 30s. But when I go down south, they think I'm in my early 20s. So I guess it depends. I'm not offended. I'm a dad. I'm a family. So
well, your family is what's important.
Exactly. So I'm wondering what my daughter thinks. Because she always asks me. She said, "Hey, Pa, how old do I look?" And I'm like, "Well, you look 9." And she's like, "But do I look 9?" But she wants to look. I think she says she wants to look older.
Oh, of course, yeah. Kids that age, they want to be. They can't wait till their next birthday. So, and they divide their lives into half years. I'm 8.5 or 6.5, whatever, and that's pretty common.
Yeah, and then I would give her advice. Not try to stay as young, but enjoy it. But it's hard when you're a kid. Like even now, Ted, like I mentioned it before. Like for me, I feel like time. I don't know if it's because now I'm married, I have a family, or this and that. Time is going quick. Like. Whoa! Trust me, it goes faster the older you get. So really? Be prepared for that. Oh man, because I was 2 days ago we just had a friend of ours sent a picture of their kids with my kid, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, she was so little. When was this? I think they said like 3 years ago. I'm like, it's been 3 years. And then every week, my daughter, she wants to measure herself. Oh yes, yeah. How tall she is? And she grew like almost 2 inches. I'm like, it kind of, I'm being a little teary. It kind of, you're like, oh, snap. Well, you might have a professional basketball player on your hands there if she keeps growing, but chances are she won't get 7 feet tall. I'm quite sure of that. We'll see. She is a fan of USD basketball. Good. She loves Grace Larkins over there. Mm-hmm. Funny thing is, so Grace Larkins is in our community group every Sunday. A while back, I didn't know I didn't know who she was, and I didn't know she played basketball. I just heard that she played basketball until we went to a game, and then we see Grace. I'm like, oh, I didn't know she played. And then they're like, oh yeah, she's
the best player on the team.
Yeah. So all this time, I'm like, wow, we've been sitting next to a basketball star.
Yeah, you may not have been here, what was it, 3-4 years ago when the USD had an exceptionally good team and played in the Sweet 16 and got to the top 16 in the country. And
really?
Yeah, and this year it was South Dakota State's turn. They had a very mature team that had played together for several years, and they got to the Sweet 16. But once you get to that level, then you're playing schools like South Carolina and Connecticut and others that are, have big budgets, and they can afford to attract superior athletes. And but we do pretty well here for our situation.
Yeah, I think they play hard, all these teams, and I think they're getting better. I even talked to some of the coaches, even the John from the athletic director. Well, it's because I see, I go to the games, and they play hard. The men's basketball team had a good year this year. Football went pretty far. Volleyball is insane too. I just did an interview with the coach and Leanne. They're great.
Yeah, they've got a good program, and that's come a long ways in the last 20 years nationally and in South Dakota.
Yeah, I've been even though I talk, try to figure out what's going on in the community. There's a lot of stuff that happens at USD so I work at the med school. I've been doing that for a while, and especially talking with these student or PhD student or grad students and the professors in these labs. I'm like, whoa, these people are smart. The one when I was working, I was a lab tech for his name is XJ Wong. He does cardiovascular research. The way he thinks, and he's trying to cure this or whatever. There's another one that does cancer, Dr. Rizvani. Other people doing Alzheimer's, regeneration. I'm like, whoa, all this stuff is happening right here.
That's true, and I'm concerned about what's going on in the federal government and their attitude toward research and funding. And the basic research is done here at USD and other universities is the foundation for all scientific progress, especially medical progress. And once the basic science research community establishes certain facts about a particular process or subject of the inquiry, then the pharmaceutical companies take that information and begin to develop clinically useful meds. And but none of that would happen if it wasn't for the federal funding that supports the local research like we do here at USD. Yeah,
usually, and I do have a stance on this one. Usually I'm the guy that's like, hey, you don't need help or you don't need this as long as, the capitalism mindset. But on the research side, because I've talked to a bunch of professors and postdocs and all them, it's very different because usually, what one of them was telling me, he's great. He's amazing. He's trying to find the cure for aging. He's amazing. He was explaining it to us, but he says that, in research, you're not really going in there, with a product to sell. It's just research and everything, all the ideas bounce around. That's why it's kind of mostly public. And it's been like that for years and years. That's why, because I didn't know before I came to USD to work, I thought a lot of research and medicine and all that, I thought that was found in, for example, hospitals or private labs. No, a lot of it's in universities.
Much of the product of research is finding out what isn't true. And as they try different things, different approaches, they narrow the field down, and eventually they'll find reality that is true, accurate, useful. And Edison, as I recall, when he invented the light bulb, he tried dozens of different filaments before he found something that would work and work in an incandescent light bulb. And so his comment always was, well, he had more things that didn't, he figured out more things that didn't work than he finally did that did work. And I think that's the way research pretty much goes.
Yeah, no, it is. Because a lot of it, I don't know if, I guess for the people that aren't, it's because I've been in the field, so I understand it more. But for the people that probably hasn't been in there, it's a lot of it's trial and error, and you could find out a lot of stuff by, mistakes.
Sure.
Yeah.
You learn from those. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, like, even the stuff that's been going on with the pausing, man, that affects, because so now I still work at the med school, but I work for the Brin program, and now I'm just doing administration stuff. But we're still on a grant, and we're supposed to get a new one for 5 years in this August or September. But we don't, this stuff is kind of scary. And even it's to that point where even like my boss said, we had a meeting, he said, hey, we don't know what's going on. I like how he's honest. He says, you guys might lose your jobs. And not just us, I don't know how they'll pay for the PhD students or their workers. And then also there's a grant accounting department, like all that stuff. It's a little scary.
Well, it's, if you'll pardon me making a observation, I think the approach that the current administration in Washington is using is completely counterproductive. They go at it as symbolized by the chainsaw approach of Mr. Musk, and they don't give any real consideration to the value of a lot of things that they're destroying.
I think what they're trying to, I'm trying to visualize what's their mindset. And I think what they want to do is, they're saying, okay, they don't need federal spending. That means that, for example, if it takes $1 million to do this heart research, if they take it out, someone is going to do it cheaper and more efficient. The only problem is it takes a lot of money to start research. It takes a lot. So even though, like, for example, my friend Mark, I'm telling you, he's this amazing genius, and he has the stuff, but he needs, for example, I asked him, like, hey, for a private company, because I was trying to help him or trying to, what do you need? He says, he has all the calculations and budget stuff. He needs like 12 million to start. I'm like, do you really need that? You can't like do it with like $1 million. He's like, it's just so expensive. And it is, even like, because I take care of like invoices and all that and orders. That equipment is just, it's expensive. It's reagents and I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I know the idea they're trying to do, maybe spark a lot of people to, hey, well, I could do it cheaper, but it's very, very, very tough.
And many private businesses aren't going to take the risk and invest the money in doing very basic research. It's just not something they're willing to do because they know that there's a lot of failure involved in that. And they want somebody else to do the basics, and then they'll take it from there and turn it into products that sell in the marketplace.
Yeah, there it is. It's the risk because research is a lot of trial and error.
Yes, it is.
Man, it's just, I've been following it, and it does. Worst case scenario, like worst case, I lose my job. Am I going to complain a little bit? But I'll do like this. So this is what happened. So we came up here during COVID. It was 2020. I just graduated, and then I started working. I have a bio degree, nothing special. I started working at this medical diagnostic testing lab facility. It was something big, and it was what I wanted to do. I like the bench work. It's cool. I like it. That lasted 2 weeks. For some reason, they stopped calling us, and I'm like, that's strange. And it was like that for a few months, and that's when I started applying. So, and then I'm here.
Where did you go to school?
University of Texas at Arlington.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, at the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
I was listening to public radio this morning, and which is another treasure that I fear for the financing on. But they had the mayor of Arlington on this morning talking about that apparently there's at least one automobile assembly plant in Arlington, or maybe there are more there. But he was talking about the impact of the Trump tariffs that are going to be applied next week on automobile parts and finished products, and the impact that would have in Arlington. And Arlington's between Fort Worth and Dallas, isn't it? And where the Cowboy football stadium is in Arlington.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've been through there. I don't know a lot about it, but it's, of course, one one continuous city between Fort Worth and Dallas. And but they have their own economic situation. We all do, and we just hope for the best.
Man, speaking of some of that, I think as of right now, I like being an open, honest guy. I think I might, well, currently in this situation, I think I regret my vote. I think. So when it was the first time with Biden and Trump, I voted for Biden. And this time, I guess, because it was COVID. And then COVID started with Trump. And then I voted for Biden. And then I figured out this inflation stuff. And I was like, well, let me go with Trump. I think because they were saying, oh, he'll drop everything. And it's more difficult. I'm like, well, okay, next time I'm not going to vote at all because every time I vote.
Well, don't take the blame for it. I think you should vote, and it's a bit of a crapshoot, and every candidate overpromises. That goes with the territory, and voters have to be able to discount a lot of that. Anybody that says the first day they're on the job they're going to reduce the price of eggs, for example, is just an absurd thing to say. But some people literally believe that they can do it, and they can't. And anyway.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if the word is more gullible, but now I'm doing more research on this stuff. Especially that's how I started kind of with the podcast. I had Carson help me out. The first thing, I wanted to know what was going on in Vermillion, because what surprised me, I knew it was a small town, and I'm like, okay, it's small. Why aren't there a lot of businesses? And then I went to Brookings, and I was like, whoa, Brookings is huge. And that's when I started talking to people, trying to get more involved, going to those council meetings.
Well, Brookings has SDSU, and I admire SDSU a lot. I think it's a fine school. And there are difference in the curriculum, as that's a big part of it, is that they have agriculture, and that's the major part of our economy in South Dakota, and this whole part of the country. And so they fit better in terms of agricultural related research than we would here. And they have engineering, which is another academic field that produces usable information that they can turn into economic value. And we are more into the liberal arts undergraduate training here, and the law school is here. The medical school, as a big part of their operation, is in Sioux Falls, and they do of course the basic science here, as you know, in the first 2 years of medical school, and some health-related programs, but they're more difficult to produce working companies based on what they produce in the laboratories here. And another problem, it seems overblown maybe, but we are 6 miles off of the interstate highway, and they are literally, the interstate highway runs through Brookings. Not quite in the middle, but toward the east side. But anyway, it's accessible immediately from the interstate highway. And that has a lot to do with travel-related businesses. And at the time Vermillion was founded and USD was founded, the Missouri River was the interstate highway of its time. People would come here oftentimes by steamboat up the river, and the river travel was replaced by the railroads at a later time. And so the railroads became the major access points into this part of the world. And so initially, Vermillion was right on the interstate highway of its time, the Missouri River. And after that, it became the railroads, and then later the highways. And Vermillion became more in a relatively remote corner of the state. And Brookings was more located where there was more traffic in various ways. And of course, their commitment to agriculture has allowed them to relate more directly to the economy of the state than what we do here. And but we're both good schools and have been doing pretty well in recent times. And I think, as I'm fond of saying, that we compete on the athletic field and in some other ways. but we have a lot more in common with the two universities than separates us. And our enemy, if you want to use that term, is ignorance. We are both in the business of rolling back ignorance and producing in an informed public, and so we work together on that.
Have you ever wondered, or not wondered, but in your mind, I guess it depends who I talk to, but how could Vermillion kind of grow? Not become like a city like Sioux Falls, but just how do we attract more people?
It's in a growth period now. Of course, you wouldn't have known what it was here 30 years ago. You weren't even born 30 years ago, were you? Anyway, its location has turned into I wouldn't call it a liability, but it's not a growth factor. The trade area is confined. We've always had Yankton on the west, which is a more comprehensive community than Vermillion is, 23 miles away. Sioux City, Iowa, 25 miles away, or 30, and even Sioux Falls, and the Missouri River to the south. And until we had a bridge across the river, Nebraska might as well be Texas. I mean, it just was not accessible from here. And you look in the parking lots of the supermarkets now and the hospital and other places in Vermillion, you see a lot of Nebraska license plates because those people can get here crossing the river, the Missouri River. That wasn't feasible before. Before they would have to come through Yankton or Sioux City if they were in search of dental services or grocery stores, that sort of thing. Why would they come to Vermillion when they had to go through Yankton or Sioux City to get here in the first place? Anyway, it had a very small trade area, and the academic programs here don't produce the spin-offs like Daktronics has been in Brookings, for example. Our academic programs are more cerebral and less tactile, if I can use that term, or hands-on kind of things.
Yeah, one thing, because I don't understand all of it, and it's way more complicated than I think. One idea that sparked my mind a while back, I was looking into it, but it's the same thing. It's way more complicated. I was wondering, what if they had same thing when I was working at a medical diagnostic, whatever, lab, private lab, or whatever facility. Because we have, I ask all these PhD students at the med school, I'm like, where do you guys go after this? They're like, we love Vermillion, but there's no
opportunity, job opportunity.
So they would go, and I said, would you guys stay here if there was? I'm like, yeah. And I was looking, I'm like, well, you have the labor for the med school, like these students, because they already know, they do the exact same thing I was doing at my other job. So I was like, hey, why don't we have something here? But yeah, it's probably way more.
Well, they work from samples of human tissue or blood or whatever, right? So, and at the front door of a business like that, you have to be able to receive research material, blood or tissue, human tissue. That might be a limitation. In a big metroplex like Dallas, Fort Worth, I mean, we got 5-6 million people there within 50 miles. Yeah. And so you got lots of work to do locally. Here we have to ship in a lot of our business, and that's one reason why USD has tended to emphasize for its research and economic development efforts more in Sioux Falls than here. And I think that probably makes some sense. And also another factor is that households oftentimes these days need two professional jobs, a husband and a wife, or a significant other, whatever you want to call the other person or persons in the household. And we have fewer professional jobs here, and particularly in the sciences, that they would in a larger community. And anyway, the economics works in its own best interests, it seems. And we have a lot going on in Sioux Falls, and I'm proud of that. And our friends in Brookings tend to have more of theirs concentrated in Brookings because their agricultural and engineering programs are actually in Brookings. And we have a lot of our medical infrastructure on the clinical side, at least, in Vermillion or in Sioux Falls. And that's one reason why a lot of activities are based there.
Very tricky, but we'll see what happens with it. Oh, I do want to ask Ted, through your whole life experiences, what was your favorite decade?
Good question. I suppose from a sense of personal accomplishment, the 1970s. I spent just over 4 years as chief of staff for the governor of South Dakota. Lived in Pierre, of course, that's where that job would be. And it was an exciting time. We did a lot of very good things in the state government. Major events happened in the state during that time, which I had some role in. There was a great flood in the Rapid City area in 1972, for example, and 230-some people lost their lives in a flood that came out of the Black Hills down through the city of Rapid City. And dealing with, first of all, the flood itself, and then the aftermath of the flood was something the state had a lot to do with. I was telling somebody a day or so ago that the way that we in conjunction with the federal government reacted to that flood gave birth to what we now call FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration. Before that, the federal government's emergency approach had to do mostly with the possibility of nuclear attack, and it was the Civil Defense Administration. It was geared toward hiding under your desk if you were in grade school from any radiation. Anyway, but one thing we did in the wake of the Rapid City flood of 1972 was to co-locate in the old Central High School building all kinds of agencies that had some way of helping people that had been injured by the flood, and that coordination essentially gave birth to the creation of FEMA as a natural disaster recovery from floods and hurricanes and the like, fires, anyway, but it was tragic in that 200 plus people drowned or were swept away and killed by the flood which came roaring out of the Black Hills.
Was that similar to, I don't know if it's similar, but that flood that happened last year around Sioux City?
Well, the one that happened here that flooded in the North Sioux City, Dakota Dunes area was more predictable. There had been over the years a number of flood control engineering achievements in that area to try to control floods that could have occurred on the Big Sioux River coming from the north. But I don't know that any engineer contemplating the size of that flow of water designed anything that would be completely able to control that much water. And so it overwhelmed a lot of the engineering designed to redirect the water. And unfortunately, much of it went right through McCook Lake, which is Oxbow Lake in the North Sioux City area, and with houses around it, and a lot of tremendous damage there, people's homes, and we're still trying to recover from that. But it's people call it a 500-year flood, and sometimes 500-year floods occur every year.
Yeah.
And who knows what's in the future, but a huge amount of water came down the Big Sioux River that nobody really contemplated.
Man, I can't imagine. I remember we saw videos, and I have not a family member, but a friend of a family member, and my mom would tell me like, "Hey, check with them to see if," because I don't know what part of Sioux City they live in, but they said that it might have passed right through them. Luckily enough, I don't know if they were just on the edge or just a little farther, but they were safe. But we saw that damage last year. And I was like, whoa, even like right here on the lower part of Vermillion, just driving by.
Had a lot of water along the Vermillion River. And several years ago, there was a excess of water in the Missouri River being held back by the dams upstream. And the Corps of Engineers manages the water levels behind the mainstream dams. And there was a lot of snowfall that was compounded in the early spring by heavy rain in the north, in Montana, North Dakota. So all that water had to be released through the dams, and so it was created, in a sense, by the Corps of Engineers because they had to get rid of the water one way or another, and so they deliberately flooded downstream, and that affected areas in this, developed areas in the Vermillion, North Sioux City, Elk Point area.
So when you were throughout your career, like working, in South Dakota or in like government, when there's like a tragedy or even something bad, how do you guys respond? Because it's probably I couldn't even imagine. I could barely respond when my daughter falls and cries. I'm like, but imagine like stuff like that.
Well, all states have emergency management procedures, and typically it's a small staffed entity that advises and coordinates the state's response, whether it's from the highway department or the fish and wildlife, or at the front end, saving human lives, getting the National Guard involved, coordinating all those services that provide help in the flood or the fire, whatever it is, hurricane. States and then they typically ask for a designation from the president of the national level disaster, and presidents typically from whatever party it is grant that designation, which brings into play federal resources, recovery, temporary housing, for example, when the big hurricane hit New Orleans.
Oh yeah,
Katrina, I think it was. I can't keep track of all their names. Anyway, the FEMA was involved in that, and of course that was during the George W. Bush administration, and there was a lot of critiquing going on with that. But these things happen sometimes unexpectedly and out of nowhere, and we're what I think of as a fast food nation. We don't want to wait. We want to drive right through the drive-in lane and get our cheeseburger and go. And you can't always do things that quickly. And the recovery from Katrina was a difficult situation for the lower Mississippi and the greater New Orleans area.
Man, I can see. This is where the ignorant part of me comes, and now I understand. Because before, like I'll just take a small example, like here in Vermillion, like with city council, I always thought, for example, I'm like, oh, all they do is just meet like every 2 months and get paid, or every 2 weeks. Well, that seems like easy. And when I started talking to them and I found out all the stuff they do and working like small government, I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a lot of stuff. Even like I had, when they did elections for city council, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. I had some people ask me, they're like, hey, why don't you do it? And I was like, I don't know, man.
It being what? Running for an office?
Yeah, it was going to be for the city council. I think it was the South. What was I? Am I Southeast or Southwest? Something like that. And I was actually down because I had some people. I was like, yeah, I would like to do it.
Good for you.
But then I got my it's a petition.
Yeah.
I got it, and then I heard 2 other people were running in my ward. It's nonpartisan, so it doesn't even matter what you are.
Sure.
And then I think, no, I did. I didn't think. I chickened out. I was like, because this is what I kept thinking. I was like, no, these people are there's already two people. They're a little more older than me. They probably more wiser. These people are either like directors or professors, this and that. I'm like, I'm just a normal guy. I can't do it. So I check it out.
Normal people have a lot to offer too. However you describe normal or define it.
Yeah. So they're trying to.
We have a pretty good city council. I think we, generally speaking, have high quality people that care about the town, and
Yep.
most of them are progressive minded. They want to make progress, and there are some cities that have their city government is kind of a negative. Has a negative culture to it. I think ours are more progressive and forward-thinking, and they do a good job. We have good local services. Our utilities are good. I think we've buried underground a lot of our wires, our electric wires, for example, that you don't see. Some towns you still see wires going up and down the alleys and poles and all that. We don't really have that here, and I think our utilities are good, and the town, for many years, this town, and a lot of others in the West, what would have been considered the West, had no zoning. Houston still doesn't have zoning. Houston's the third, fourth largest city in the country.
Oh yeah,
and they don't have zoning. They have development areas that have rules about what you can develop there, but they're imposed by private developers instead of local government. And so that would account to some extent for how would I say this, complicated situation there is in Houston, because you can have a low-rent housing situation right next to an upscale townhouse kind of place, and have high-rise buildings in the darndest places.
Yeah.
And, I think Dallas, Fort Worth have local zoning, which I think is a preferable way to do it.
I think Austin, it's either Austin or San Antonio, they don't have zoning either.
Well, I wasn't aware of them. Houston's the most famous one, and because it is, whatever it is, 4 million people or something in Houston, greater Houston.
There's a lot, but
we have a granddaughter that lives there, and she's a lawyer, doesn't like it, and but she makes a lot of money, and she's a graduate of the University of Houston Law School, and so she got a very attractive job coming out. She was number one in her law school class, and so she had some attractive offers, and decided to stay in Houston, at least initially. But that's another story.
No worries. Well, I really wish we had some more time in this. But I do want to give you the last word. Is there anything, last word, shout-outs, or anything you want to give out?
This is my first podcast, so
Oh, sweet.
I'll always remember this as my first time, so to speak. And congratulations on doing this, and hope you find out what you want to find out. And you're a charming interviewer.
All right. No.
Welcome to Vermillion.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, Dad.
Thank you.